The night belonged to them until it did. March 19, 1945, 9,500 feet above the Philippine Sea, north of Luzon, 01:17 hours. The night is thick, humid, moonless, absolute. Below, the Pacific reflects nothing. No stars, no coastline, just darkness layered over darkness, broken only by the faint phosphorescent wake of ships far below. At this altitude, sound travels strangely. Engine noise feels muted, swallowed by the night air. Inside the cockpit of a P-61 Black Widow, Captain Edward E. Keller, United States Army Air Forces, stares into a green glowing radar scope instead of the sky. He cannot see the enemy, but he knows they are there. The Black Widow cruises steadily, its twin Pratt & Whitney engines humming low and controlled. The aircraft is large for a fighter, wide wings, long fuselage, bulky silhouette. Japanese pilots had laughed when they first saw reconnaissance photos of it. Too slow, too heavy, a bomber pretending to be a fighter. Those assumptions are about to cost lives. Behind Keller, in the rear cockpit, Lieutenant Frank Morales, radar operator, leans closer to his scope. The screen pulses softly, a circular sweep of green light cutting through electronic noise. Then, a blip appears. Contact, Morales says quietly into the intercom. Single, bearing 075, range 5 miles, moving west. Keller doesn't react outwardly. He adjusts throttle by inches, keeping engine noise low. The P-61 doesn't dive or climb aggressively, it slides through the darkness. Somewhere ahead, a Japanese G4M Betty bomber drones confidently toward its target. The crew inside believes the night protects them. They believe Allied fighters can't find them without moonlight. They believe radar is unreliable, experimental, overrated. Japanese intelligence reports had been clear. The P-61 was unsuitable for serious interception. The bomber crew never hears the Black Widow. The P-61 closes to within 800 yards. Morales' voice drops even lower. You're clear, no escorts, he's alone. Keller eases the nose up just enough to bring the enemy into the faintest silhouette against the sky, a darker shadow moving through blackness. He never turns on lights, never fires tracers. There will be no warning. The nose-mounted 20mm cannons come alive in a single controlled burst. The night flashes white. The bomber's left wing disintegrates. Fuel ignites instantly. The aircraft snaps sideways, then begins to fall, burning silently, almost gracefully toward the sea. Keller releases the trigger. No one cheers. They don't circle the wreck. They don't watch it hit the water. Morales is already scanning again. Stand by, I've got another return, 2 o'clock, same altitude. The Black Widow banks gently. This is not a dogfight. It's a hunt. 20 minutes later, 40 miles away, another Japanese bomber crew stares into darkness and feels a prickle of unease. Radio chatter has gone quiet. One aircraft failed to check in, then another. No flak reported, no enemy fighters spotted, no distress calls, just silence. The Japanese formation begins spacing out. Hopping distance will protect them. It doesn't. The P-61 glides in unseen from below this time, radar getting every move. Keller throttles back, matching speed perfectly. The bomber looms above him like a shadowed whale. Morales counts down, 600 yards, 4-3. Keller fires upward. The bomber explodes midair, the concussion briefly rocking the Black Widow. Shards of metal rattle harmlessly past the canopy. That makes 2. Still, the Japanese command believes this must be coincidence. Mechanical failure, fuel issues, navigation errors. Not a single American fighter. By the 60-minute mark, panic begins to creep into Japanese radio traffic. A frantic transmission breaks through static. Enemy aircraft present, Night fighter suspected, unable to visually confirm. Another voice interrupts moments later, then cuts off mid-sentence. The third bomber never reports again. This one dies without ever knowing what killed it. The Black Widow approaches from dead astern, radar lock steady. Keller fires only when he is close enough to guarantee the kill. The bomber's tail section vanishes in flame. The fuselage folds. The aircraft breaks apart silently, swallowed by darkness. Morales exhales slowly. That's 3. Keller checks fuel, ammunition, engine temps. They have time. The night is still theirs. 80 minutes after the first contact, the fourth bomber appears on radar, flying lower now, erratic, pilot clearly nervous. The crew knows something is wrong, they just don't know what. The P-61 slips beneath them again. No traces. No warnings. No chance. One short burst. The bomber ignites from nose to tail, then disappears into cloud. 4 aircraft gone. No visual confirmation. No defensive fire. No survivors. The Japanese night raid has collapsed without ever seeing the enemy. Keller finally turns away, climbing smoothly into darkness. Below him, the Pacific holds 4 fresh scars that will never be found. Behind him, Morales speaks the words that will echo through Japanese command by morning. They'll stop flying at night after this. They don't know it yet, but the night no longer belongs to them. March 20th, 1945, Clark Field, Luzon, pre-dawn. The Japanese operations room smells of cigarette smoke and sweat. Maps cover the walls, string lines marking bomber routes, pins knotting expected return times. 4 markers remain untouched, 4 crews overdue, 4 aircraft that should have been back hours ago. An intelligence officer clears his throat. No flak reports from Allied positions, no sightings of enemy fighters. Silence follows. Someone finally says what everyone is thinking: mechanical failure. Another officer shakes his head. 4 aircraft, separate headings, same window. A senior commander frowns. Night fighters. The room stiffens. Japanese doctrine has long treated night interception as inefficient. Radar is unreliable. Fighters are blind in darkness. The belief has held for years, especially in the Pacific, where vast distances and poor infrastructure make coordinated night defense difficult. And yet, 4 bombers have vanished. No wreckage. No distress calls. No explanation. A junior officer speaks hesitantly. American reports mention a large night fighter, the P-61. A few men scoff. That aircraft is too heavy, too slow to intercept. It cannot maneuver with bombers, let alone destroy them. The commander doesn't laugh. He orders all-night missions suspended pending review. For the first time, Japanese air planners begin to fear the dark. That same morning, across the airfield at Clark, the P-61 Black Widow sits motionless on the tarmac, its matte black skin streaked with oil and salt. Ground crews walk around it slowly, counting shell casings, inspecting gun ports. Captain Keller climbs down from the cockpit, stiff, exhausted. He hasn't slept, neither has Morales. They're met not with celebration, but questions. How many? Were they escorted? Did they see you? Keller answers simply, no, no, no. A squadron commander studies the aircraft. You realize intelligence thought these things were a liability. Morales taps the radar housing lightly, only if you think fighting means seeing first. The truth is uncomfortable. The P-61 violates expectations. It doesn't fight like a fighter. It doesn't chase. It doesn't turn and climb and show off speed. It waits. It listens. It stalks. Its SCR-720 radar doesn't care about clouds, moonlight, or camouflage. It paints the sky in distances and angles. Where enemy pilots see nothing, the Black Widow sees everything. And Japanese pilots are learning that too late. 3 nights later, March 23rd, same airspace. The Japanese try again. This time bombers fly lower. They scatter earlier. Radio discipline tightens. Crews are ordered to fire at anything they think might be an enemy. It doesn't help. The Black Widow is already there. Keller and Morales pick up contacts at long range, multiple returns, nervous spacing. Keller doesn't rush. He lets the radar tell the story. One target drifts behind the others, lagging slightly. A mistake. They slip in below, unseen. Keller fires from closer than before. The bomber disintegrates. The rest scatter wildly. But radar doesn't panic. Morales tracks 2 more targets as they try to flee in opposite directions. Keller chooses the one that thinks altitude will save it. It doesn't. Another bomber falls. Then another. By the time fuel limits force the Black Widow home, 3 more aircraft are gone. Still no visual sightings reported by the Japanese. Only absence. Word spreads quickly now among Japanese pilots. There is something out there. It cannot be seen. It does not announce itself. And it kills without warning. Crews begin flying tighter formations again, not for defense, but for comfort. Some turn back early. Others jettison bombs prematurely, lightening load to escape faster. Night raids lose effectiveness. Commanders argue. One insists it's psychological warfare. Another demands proof. Proof arrives in the form of wreckage washed ashore days later, burned fragments, shell holes angled upward, damage patterns inconsistent with flak. An intelligence officer traces the impacts and whispers, "Fighter fire," from below. That should be impossible. And yet it is. Back at Clark Field, Keller watches as another P-61 taxis out for a night mission. New crews, new radar operators, same aircraft the enemy laughed at months earlier. He overhears a ground crewman say, "Funny thing, they're calling it the Widow now." Keller nods faintly. The name fits. Because the Black Widow doesn't chase glory. It does duel. It waits patiently in the dark. And when it strikes, no one sees it coming. By the end of March, Japanese night operations over the Philippines are reduced by nearly half. Routes change, timings shift. Some missions are cancelled entirely. Not because of losses alone, but because crews are afraid. Afraid of an enemy they cannot see. Afraid of a fighter that doesn't behave like one. Afraid of a machine they dismissed as useless. The Americans don't announce it. They don't broadcast victories. They don't need to. The sky is doing that for them. And somewhere over the Pacific, the Black Widow is already circling again, radar sweeping, engines low, waiting for the next blip to appear. March 29, 1945, over the Luzon Strait, midnight. The moon is thin tonight, just enough light to betray silhouettes, but not enough to save anyone. Inside the cockpit of the P-61, the glow of the radar scope is the only constant. Green lines sweep in slow arcs, blips rise and fade. Every movement is deliberate, every sound measured. Lieutenant Morales leans closer to the screen. His finger traces a return forming at 12 miles. Contact, single, medium altitude, steady speed. Captain Keller nods, easing the Black Widow into a shallow climb. No radio chatter, no urgency. The bomber has no idea it's being hunted. This is the moment Japanese pilots never see. The P-61 doesn't rush. It matches speed, closes gradually, slipping into the bomber's blind zone below and behind. Keller adjusts throttle by instinct, keeping engine noise masked by distance and wind. At 2,000 feet separation, Morales whispers, "Range closing, you're clear." Keller arms the guns. At 500 feet, the bomber finally senses something wrong. Its formation lights blink off. A slight course correction, too late. The Black Widow fires. 4 seconds, that's all. The bomber's wing collapses inward, fuel igniting in a dull orange flash swallowed by night. No explosion, no flare, just disappearance. Keller banks away before debris can give him away. Another mission erased. By now, Japanese crews know the pattern, even if they don't understand it. Bombers that vanish leave no survivors. No radio warnings. No dogfights. No flak bursts. Just gaps. In briefing rooms across the Philippines and Formosa, officers circle empty spaces on return schedules. Crews begin refusing night sorties. Some claim engine trouble before takeoff. Others simply never report. One surviving navigator writes later, "The Americans had found a way to fight without being seen. It felt like flying into a trap we could not escape." The Imperial Japanese Army Air Force begins issuing new orders: reduce night operations, fly higher, scatter formations. Each decision makes things worse. Higher altitude makes bombers easier radar targets. Scattered formations make them easier to isolate. The Black Widow thrives on isolation. Back at Clark Field, the scoreboards are quiet, but the paperwork is growing. Confirmed kills. Probables. Unreturned enemy aircraft. The numbers don't match expectations. Intelligence officers cross-reference Japanese loss, reports intercepted through signals intelligence. Patterns emerge, routes avoided, bases abandoned, entire night corridors going dark. The realization settles in slowly. One aircraft type has changed enemy behavior. Not through numbers, not through massed firepower, but through fear. A senior USAAF officer sums it up in a briefing memo. The P-61 does not need to destroy every bomber. It only needs to make the enemy believe the night is unsafe. For Keller and Morales, the missions continue until fatigue sets in like a second gravity. They fly until dawn stains the horizon pale gray, then land, debrief, and sleep in bursts measured in minutes. They don't celebrate. They don't talk much. They understand something the enemy doesn't yet fully grasp. The war is no longer just fought in daylight, or with formations, or with visibility. It is fought in information, in anticipation, in invisible advantage. And the P-61 owns all three. By April 1945, Japanese night bombing over Allied-held Philippines has effectively collapsed. The cost is too high, the fear too real. Reports from pilots mention a shadow fighter, a machine that hears before it sees, a hunter that does not chase. None of them ever name it correctly. But among American crews, the name sticks. Black Widow. Because once it finds you, you don't come home. Years later, analysts will argue about the exact numbers. How many bombers? How many sorties cancelled? How many lives altered? But the pilots who flew those nights already know the truth. They couldn't believe one P-61 was hunting them, until 4 bombers vanished in 80 minutes. And after that, the night belonged to someone else.